Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. So welcome everybody for our presentation. Why Altium? Why now? My name is Christian Keller. I'm working as a technical sales manager for Altium Europe GmbH, and I'm going to show you today why you should go for Altium Designer and why you should do this now. Here we are. Okay. Are you developers? Developing PCBs? From time to time? Doing more software or what? Software? Software? Why are you here?
For me it's interesting because I came from this direction and studied.
Okay, so electronics engineer. You're a designer? You're a designer? Using Altium Designer already? Using Altium Designer already? Okay, so you might not know it. We might get some new information regarding why you should use Altium Designer. For you guys, it's why you did the right decision to go with Altium Designer. Okay, as a developer, you're usually somewhere in between or in this triangle, which is done from cost, from quality, and from time. You have time, what you need, you have cost that you make, and you have to deliver a quality at the end of the day. And your boss usually wants you to see in this lower right corner. Unfortunately, well, you might go to other areas as well. And we thought, well, to ease up this for you, to give you a solution for this dilemma, there's equation time is cost, time is money. So we are going to give you back time when you're going to use Altium Designer. How can we do this? Because you're working the whole day for your boss. So how should we give you back time? How is this working? Well, we found out that about 60% of your daily time, of your working time, is not spent on designing, but spent on doing other things. Only if you do not use Altium Designer. If you already do it, don't not face with problems here. So usually perhaps going for a coffee, going for lunch, something like this, you will not spend 100% of time of your day on designing. But there are other things like documentation, spreadsheets, which have to be done in parallel to your design work, tool changes when you go for simulation perhaps, exporting things and overworking them a little bit, importing in another tool, working there, getting result, getting all those things back. So you might lose an immense amount of time. Or components, where to get those components from, are there cheap enough, are they available, all those things take time from you, preventing you from doing designing but doing something different. And the problem is, this even might get worse in future, because you might work with teams, with global teams around the world. Your devices get a little bit more complicated. Usually they don't get easier, they get smaller, they get more complicated, and you have to work together with multiple people saying, hey, please do this, do that. Have you had a thought to this and that? And how can we now give you back time by using Altium Designer? Well, we've chosen 3 pillars to build on: automation, collaboration, and unification. Okay, automation. Well, CAE, computer-aided engineering, CAD, computer-aided design. So the computer, the software should support you doing stupid things automatically for you. And this is what Altium Designer can do for you. Collaboration, not only between tools, simulation tool, developing tool for schematic PCB, those things, but collaboration with other parties in your company, guys from mechanics, from procurement, support perhaps, working together with those people already in the stage where you are designing your things. Unification, having everything inside one tool, usage is quite identical in those different parts, and of course no time loss because of tool change. These are the reasons why you should change for Altium Designer and why you should do it right now. Altium Designer 17, designing with purpose, creating with passion. We want to give you back this passion. This was the reason why you decided to have this job. You like to build up things, developing things, but you're suffering with your tools, and Altium Designer will give you back this passion. How do we do this? Well, we're starting in the beginning, looking for components. Altium Designer has a fully built-in interface which enables you to access over 100 distributors and get information, real-time information about pricing and availability of those components. If you're going to build something and have all production data and go for your guys say, hey, let's make this, let's produce this, let's build this, and they then say you, I can't get these components, then you're starting directly from the beginning. You're losing time. Not necessary when using Altium Designer. You get access not only to pricing and availability, you get access to data sheets, parameters of those elements. You can include them in Altium Designer and you can see them directly in your schematic symbols. Wow, what does this look like in the tool? I'm changing for Altium Designer and the first thing is searching for components using the CEVA interface. So I'm going for one component. Let's see what I can get. Okay, there are various components. Now I can see all parameters and I can decide what component to use perhaps following the needs I have. I can find out where I can get those components and at what price and if they're available for different distributors. If you say, well, this is nice, but are there some alternatives? Are there other components enabling me to do the same jobs? Perhaps even cheaper. So from other brands you might find components doing quite similar things. And the best, this database is related to our content vault, Altium Content Vault, and here we'll find a symbol for the schematic, a footprint for the PCB, and if you found all those things, then if you do have a vault, you can go and use this component directly and place this in your schematic. So a kind of online library with over 3 million components. Okay, this was looking for components. But what with your design if it's already done? Are all components available? What price is this? Does this happen from time to time that your boss comes to you asking you, hey, what is the price for this development? What will it cost me? What do you do then? Having an export Excel sheet, finding those components somewhere, getting prices for all those things, typing them down, needing about 1 hour, depending on the size of design. What if you could do this within seconds? What Altium does right now, or Altium Designer does right now, is pushing all your bill of material information to the cloud, to the CEVA servers, the components and the parameters. It does analyze this information and it does give back a result. The result is that he's with some components quite sure that he had a fit in his library because the comments of those components have been really, really good. So for those components he's quite sure he found the right thing. For this one he was not so sure, so perhaps we should go and clarify if this is the correct component or not. But this is not the result I am talking of. The result are those 2 components. This guy, not recommended for a new design. Well, you might get it still, but it's not a good decision to go with this design for the future, because this component will be obsolete in the near future. And the other component is a no-go, an obsolete component in my design. I don't have to maintain my internal database at this point of time. I get this information from external. This is information for me, and of course later on I'm going to update my library to have not something like this happen a second time. And at this point I can go and replace this component with a component which is still available. If I'm lucky, I'll find a drop-in replacement. If not, I have saved the time to rework my PCB, reworking my layout, reworking my production data. I promised you to give you back this development time. Related to those technologies a little bit, 64-bit, USB, DDR3, DDR4, wireless, those things. Most of you. All those other guys, your developments usually get a little bit more complicated as well, smaller, all those things. So you need the same things. You need a routing engine really supporting you. And this is what Altium supplies, an interactive routing engine being rule-based, supporting you in hugging, push and shove, walk around obstacles, doing length matching, routing, complete bus structures, differential pairs, and impedance controlled routing as well. What we got new in Altium Designer 17 was the active route. Kind of mixed up between interactive routing and auto routing, enabling you to do a guided route of bus structures. This can be done on multiple layers. You can use it for differential pairs, and it can do the BGA escape routing. I'm going to show you this in a second in the tool, but before we do this, we should have a view to those pictures. Have you seen something like this before? Yourself or a colleague of you did something like this? Was yourself, okay? Usually people tell me colleague of mine has done something like this. So components blown up, traces blown up, kappa overload, things like this. Wouldn't it be nice if we could prevent something like this before we have the device physical on the table, connecting it to power and getting this result? So what we can provide in Altium Designer is an optional extension, which is then fully integrated in Altium Designer. This is based on a property which we do get from CST, the PDN analyzer powered by CST. Fully integrated. What we do get after all those gizmos have done their work is a colored heat map in your PCB, in your environment, which are used to telling you information about current density and voltage drop in your design. Not only the 2D view, but in the 3D view as well, enabling you to get information about the wires, for example, which are in your design. And the whole thing has been promised to be so easy that it can be used by every engineer. This is what our developers told, and I think this is truth. I'm showing you this now in Altium Designer directly. We are starting with some routing things. Okay, we have some people in the audience not having Altium Designer at this point of time. To be honest with you, it's not possible to do such a bad routing in Altium Designer, okay? I had to really work to get such a bad routing. It might have been, for example, an import from another tool. We do have so many importers, import wizards. Perhaps other tools can do it that bad. But of course, we have to take care about something like this. This is easy work, isn't it? But if I could get some help, only by selecting some elements and starting a glossing functionality, I can save an immense amount of time. And when you say, well, this was nice, but I have to modify this a little bit, you still can do things like this. Let's go for another example. I really spent some work on this already. All those power structures, those complex power structures have been routed, clock signals have been done, all those things are done already. There are only some connections, some easy connections left. How long do you think would you need to route something like this? No idea? A day, half a day, hours, 1 hour, minutes?
For finish?
Yes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Ooh. Other opinions? 5 minutes? No. Longer. The good thing is, even him, I can give him back 4 minutes and 52 seconds, because I need 8 seconds to do something like this. I select those connection lines and I start the active route engine. And within 8 seconds, I do get a result. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, here we are. Nice. And even then, if you say, well, this is nice, but it's not perfect, you can adjust those things still. Okay, pushing elements here a little bit perhaps. And those pad exits, they are not perfect at this point. If you had adjusted the design rules, the result would have been better. But in this case, I'm using the interactive routing engine to fix this manually, which can be done fast enough, I think. Oops. Control Z, undoing this. Okay, here we are. And for the last guy, I'm choosing this way. Okay, But Active Route was invented not for those things, even if it's nice to use in this combination. It was invented, or it was thought, for those most complex structures. Easy connections, pin-to-pin connections, but plenty of them. Again, I'm selecting only the connection lines, but this time I'm not only starting this Active Route engine, I adjust the tool to use only the inner layers, and I'm going to define a route guide, saying, okay, in this channel I'd like the tool to do those connections. The width of this channel is created automatically from the number of layers I use, from the clearances I need, and from the track width I need. And he's reworking it. You already found a solution, and here we are. Nice. I think you really saved some time here. It's not fully done right now. We are missing the length matching at this point of time, but this is really some nice pre-work which already has been done, again saving you an immense amount of time. Let's have a view for a smaller design. I think this one looks good. We can go for production. Or any problems? Fully routed? Looks good, does it? What is the worst thing that can happen to you if you're going for production and get a fully populated prototype? The worst thing that can happen. Usually people say, well, it does not work. Well, this is bad, but it's not the worst thing. The worst thing is it works sometimes. And I can help you preventing a problem like this. When I start the PDN analyzer, I have to do some adjustments, of course, a setup of this engine, and I'm using pre-adjusted values here. And you can do the same for your designs as well, of course. And then I start the analyzation. Now he's calling this black box, which we got from CST, and here we are already with our result. And unfortunately, Altium Designer did some errors. Well, this is good that he did those things, because he tells us something here. We are faced with problems in our design. What are those problems? He shows us. Do you remember those 3 pictures? One of those has been a component being blown up. This voltage regulator should deliver 0.7 amps and can deliver only 500 milliamps. So this component will likely break down. This other guy is told to have 3.2 volts per spec sheet, data sheet. It gets only 3.192 volt. Yes, this will work most times. Finding mistakes, finding problems like this on your PCB later on is very, very hard. So if you get a help here, it's really appreciated. But we do not get only those digital results, we do get some analog results as well. So we get this colored heat map and can go through our PCB, seeing, okay, probing the voltage at any point of the track. We can go for other layers as well, can go for planes. We can see the individual layers if we want to. And we can go not only for the voltage drop, we can go for the current density as well. Well, and this is what we are talking about. Very, very high current density at this point. Perhaps we should go for a trace being a little bit more, or having a little bit more width at this point. But not only in 2 dimensions, even in 3 dimensions this is possible. Enabling us to have a view to our wires. Are they big enough? Do I need more than 1 wire? Do I need a bigger one? Well, usually not a smaller one, or perhaps, yes, you could use a smaller one because you would not be faced with any problems. Okay, right now we do have a nice PCB. We have checked this as well. But at the end of the day, the whole thing must be placed somehow inside an enclosure. How to do this? Well, Altium provides, or Altium Designer provides, a 3-dimensional PCB editor with a 2-dimensional view. So what we see in 2 dimensions does take into consideration a PCB component body, which can be done from an extruded model, from an extruded shape, from an imported step model, or from an imported parasolid model. So when you do the placement of components, even in 2D, you can see the full 3D clearance checking, is anything going wrong or not. You can add additionally, if you like, to an enclosure, again as step model or as parasolid model. And if you say, well, this is nice working in this way together with my colleagues from the mechanical department, you can even have an optional bidirectional interface between SolidWorks and Altium Designer, meaning you're moving a component in SolidWorks and it gets moved in Altium Designer as well. You move it back in Altium Designer, it gets moved in SolidWorks. Bidirectional. Some people like to have this. I would say, well, no, I don't like those mechanical guys to move my components. I would choose something like this. But if you like to, you can have this as well. In extension to the three-dimensional world, we can go for rigid flex design as well. For this, of course, we need a layer stack manager enabling us to have multiple stack ups, flexible parts, rigid parts, getting some specialties which we need for the rigid flex board itself to realize this physical. We do get an additional view in the PCB editor, the board planning mode, enabling us to define in which areas should which stack up being used, defining bending lines, things like this. Of course, the whole thing can be done in the documentation as well to enable us to build things like this later on, and it can be bent in Altium Designer. So this is a picture out of Altium Designer screenshot. To make this 100%, even the clearance checking for the components can be done in this view. Okay, let's go again for Altium Designer and see what this does look like in the tool itself. First, moving of components. You usually work in this view. You could do this in the 3D view as well if you'd like to. So moving component, here we do get problems, of course, but we are able to place a component here or there, no problem. The same should be possible with this component. You can't place it here, but you can place it there, and unfortunately not here. Why there and not here? It's very, very hard to see this or to know this only having a two-dimensional view. When you change for the three-dimensional view, you can see this directly. This guy has been a small resistor, enough space, no problems, and this guy interferes with the connector. Control Z to undo this, to get this component to another location. And of course, this could be combined with rules to prevent you from doing things like this or even pushing other elements away. Let's go for another example, a rigid flex design. And this is obviously a rigid flex design. You can already see this, that we do have this flexible area and those rigid areas. What you can see as well is that there are some components which are not on top and not on bottom layer. So as a side product from the rigid flex design, we got the possibility to do embedded and engraved components. But the whole thing should be bent, of course, and this can be done in the tool as well. Let's have a closer view what happens if I'm really closing this to 100%. Oh, collision. So if you're not closing the thing 100%, you might be nice or might be fine having a component on the bottom layer of in this area, but usually I think you would decide to put it on the other side of the PCB. Now again, you can go for an enclosure, place this one in the 3D view, check does the whole thing fit the enclosure or does it not. You could go for a save as a step file, so you could export the 3D model of this one as well, enabling your colleagues from the 3D department to import it in their tools as well. So both ways are open, getting data in and getting data out. If you did all those things, unfortunately, you are not finished. You do have to do some documentation. Altium Designer can give you an additional editor right now. It's available since Altium Designer 16.1, the Draftsman. Draftsman is kind of editor where you can put together information for manufacturer guys, support guys, human readable PCB documentation. The things you usually tend to do in something like Word or so, this can now be done directly in Altium Designer. Having placement views, having support for rigid flex, getting information about drills, bill of material, layer stack up, and all those things can be done when using templates as well. So usually you tend to have the identical documentation for all your developments inside your company. And what you do usually is take in an old development, saying, okay, documentation should look like this and that. Then you try to put it together in the same way. If you use templates, you don't have any work here, you're saving time. But this document is not the only document you need. You usually do have different fabrication, different production targets. Fabrication of the PCB, assembly information perhaps from those guys of the mechanical department, service guys, and repetitive all those documents again for all those variants that you do have. Altium Designer provides a simple interface, wizard-based, which gives you the chance to do all those documents with a click of a button. But only if verification goes well. You have the chance to include verification in this process, checking if components are available, if they're up to date, if the ERC is okay, the electrical rule check, or the DRC is okay, the design rule check. If those things fail, then there is no release of the design, giving you the chance to correct everything. Our small design, which we have been checking, we're going now for a new document, which is the draftsman document. And I could go off for one of those templates. Everything would then be in already. I'm choosing to do it manually from scratch to show you how easy something like this is. Okay, I'm placing a board assembly view. Data now is drawn directly from the PCB, and if PCB is changed, you can go and update this information. Not on the PCB, but in this document. You can go and place a sectional view. You can go and place dimensioning. What we need perhaps as well is a bill of material, a layer stack up, and because there is something special with some components, a detailed view for those four guys, placing this as well. All those views of course can be adjusted. You can say I'd like to see only this or that group of components, and if you say, well, this is nice but I need a second slide because I do have some more information I want to share, simply go and open a second sheet, no problem. This draftsman document now can be included in a so-called output job file. In an output job file, we define those containers we need for the documentation later on. Can be PDF documents, not only one, but more PDFs if you like to. Folder structures where you can place data inside. This can be PCB prints, schematic prints, assembly information, pick and place files, assembly drawings, fabrication outputs like Gerber, Gerber X2, IPC 2581 or ODB++, bill of materials, multiple bill of materials, some perhaps sorted to enable you to order components, some of them all components being individual, and the mentioned validation outputs where you can check for component states, are they up to date, are they available, electrical rule check, design rule check, all those things could be included as well. So if you did define your output job file or files, it's possible to have multiples of them, you can go for the project releaser. In this case, he's going for 3 production target, which is fabrication, assembly, and assembly information for a variant of the PCB. What is saved as well is the source files, of course. You always need the source files because when you say I've released number 1 and you'd like to go for release number 2, you need those files to continue with your development. In our case, I'm going only at this point for the assembly data. get those things prepared. So he's now preparing the data. PDF document is the first thing that's done. All those other things are done automatically, giving the chance to go for a cup of coffee. While he's working, I can go and have a view to the PDF document already. Nice. 3D view of my PCB. Nice. Nice, but not really cool. Really cool is the next page of the PDF, which is a 3D PDF. So you really can work in this view. And if you have colleagues, perhaps not having Altium Designer being installed on their machines, you can go and select components, find out about nets. All those things can be done within this PDF, 3D PDF view. There are some other printouts in. I've chosen only some things here. And of course, you'd like to adjust this in a way that is convenient for your company. And of course, you're able to. All those things can are highly adjustable following your needs in your company. Any questions? Whom of you does not have Altium Designer so far? Nobody. So 2 people at least, I know. You should ask at least what is the price of this tool. We are on a fair, there are some special prizes. Go for our sales guys, ask them what they can do for you. If you really do not have any questions, then I'm going for my last slide. I'd like to thank you that you've been here. Hope you had a little bit fun, found or got some information, valuable information. I'd like to wish you a nice rest of the fair. Goodbye from my side.